Hello everyone, welcome into another episode of Matt Sports Talk, and in this video we are going to be recapping the NAIA National Tournament Championship game from last night. And now I mentioned yesterday that more than likely whoever won that game, if Marion had a chance of winning that game, which I alluded to that yesterday in my Final Four recap video, I mentioned that if Marion wins this game, it's probably going to be, if they only hold Dort, in the 60s or maybe, late 60s at best. And that's exactly what happened. And the Marion Lady Knights prevailing here by a final score of 73-61. And this is Marion's first championship since the 2016/17 school year. Of course, they probably should have won the national title in 2019/2020 when COVID happened, and of course, that was a year that Marion pretty much had the same exact record as what they did this year, 35-3. And so it was obviously a very well-deserved achievement for the Lady Knights, especially, capping off a stellar career by Abby McNally. And obviously that's just absolutely amazing that the Lady Knights were able to win this game against a very, very good Dort defender team. And of course, for the Lady Knights, they've gone through so much adversity this year, and especially with the McNally sisters. Obviously I had seen on social media a little while back of how they unfortunately lost their mother earlier on this season, and obviously that, I think, pretty much affected the team in a way to where when they lost their last game, which was at Huntington, that was literally right about that time that the team was going through that very emotional time. And to see them come back the way they did and win a national championship, I think is an excellent story of just how good the Lord has been to that program and to all those players. And that is just absolutely a blessing that they were able to win this. And obviously I know that for a lot of us that follow the Crossroads League, that especially for those of us that follow Indiana Wesleyan very closely and are fans of the Lady Wildcats, obviously the Lady Knights, obviously they're a kind of probably the biggest rivalry in the whole state of Indiana. So obviously whenever Marion wins, it's like but obviously I have the utmost respect for head coach Santana Anderson and her team, and I, pardon me, and I really hope that everybody that loves Crossroads League and basketball, I really hope that all those people have the same amount of respect for the Lady Knights, especially with just how good that program has been, and Coach Anderson taking over that program last year. And they were, I believe, 28-6 last year, made the Elite Eight, finished 15-3 in conference play, and this year they go 35-3 overall, and they end conference play at 16-2. So again, this is the Lady Knights team that's just going to get better and better. And like I said, I have the total respect for them for just how good they are, each and every year. And obviously, who knows, maybe next year will be Indiana Wesleyan's turn. And in fact, the only time I believe that a Crossroads Lake school has gone back-to-back, I believe, was 2015/16 and 16-17. Of course, this is Marion's third championship since that time. And of course, that back then, that was in 2016-2017. That was before the NAIA merged merged in a way to where it was NAIA Division II, and prior, of course, that merge did not happen over to NAIA D2 until after COVID happened. So again, this is, if you wanted to get technical, the last time a Crossroads League school did go back-to-back, or not back-to-back, but just the last time that any Crossroads League school in general went back-to-back, I should say, 2016 and 2017 with the Marion Lady Knights. And the last time the Lady Wildcats won a national championship was back in 2013, the 2012/13 season, when the Lady Wildcats went 35-3. And the only other championship in terms of national level in program history was 06/07 under former head coach Steve Brooks, when the Lady Wildcats went 38-0. So again, national championships are not definitely are not something that the Lady Wildcats, are used to every single year, which that's perfectly okay. I mean, it's very, very hard to win a national championship, especially these days when it's 64 teams. You're playing 6 games within the span of 5 days, 4.5 days, I guess I should say. So, obviously the fatigue level, really sets in. You're up very, very late at night into the early morning, not just watching game film, but making preparations, and at the same time you're trying to keep up with all your classwork and homework assignments and all that and all that good stuff. So I'm sure it's very, very, very difficult, to do something like that. But obviously, next year, the Lady Wildcats, I think the sky is the limit for them next year in terms of the talent that they're going to have. Really, I think at any point in the next 3 years, up through the 2028/2029 season, I think somewhere in that time frame, the Lady Wildcats are going to break through and win a national title. And maybe it'll be next year, maybe it'll be the year after that, with a big 2028 graduating class with Haley Amy, Kennedy Fueling, Chloe Graham, Ellie Kelleher. Obviously, 2029, you'll have, Addie Hovey, Ayla Krieger, on that team, Sophia Schroeder. And obviously, I think it kind of be just a grand finale, so to speak, just something that would just be the icing on the cake for next year with a big senior class. You'll have Emily Mattingly, Kylie Bettinger, Tori Thompson, as well as Bria Garber, and also you'll have Corinne Grivey. So things are definitely looking good for Lady Wildcats next year, and I'm super, super excited about that. And so my final bracket record, 43-20, with the result last night, which again, it's not too terribly bad. Of course, it's my only my second year in doing it, and I plan on doing that for many, many more years in the national tournament. So again, I'm just getting better and better every single year, doing a little bit more homework, and super, super excited about next year's national tournament. And of course, I've alluded to over the last few days some great things I have planned for Matt Sports Talk for Season 3 when I officially launch that in the month of September. Super, super excited about doing that in September, and of course I'll be busy, reaching out to some people next week. So again, trying to get that scheduled for hopefully late July, first week of August, somewhere in there, obviously before the school year starts and before practices get back in full swing as we head into the early fall. So again, super, super excited about that. That is for sure. And it's hard to believe, this is the second to last episode. We only have one more episode of Matt Sports Talk of Season 2, and that will be either tomorrow or Friday. It will be one of those days where I will be doing a season recap for both men and the women's side of the Crossroads League, just sharing my overall thoughts on the year and who were some key players, in my opinion, that really stood out and whatnot. So that's going to be coming your way. Either tomorrow or Thursday, so super, super excited about that. So, with all that being said, we're talking about the national championship game last night and sharing my final bracket standing and sharing all that good stuff. Now we're going to recap the championship game from last night, and we will start with the Dordt Lady Defenders. They finished the year 34-3. You had 6 points for Willow Bleeker, 2 of 5 shooting, 2 of 3 from deep. She had 5 rebounds, 2 assists, and 1 steal. You had 15 points for Macy Sievers. Not quite a triple-double, but a double-double. 15 points, 10 rebounds, 5 of 13 from the floor, 5 of 6 of the line. She had 5 assists and 2 steals to go along with that. You had 7 points for Olivia Harrison, with 3 of 7 shooting, 1 of 1 from deep, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals. You had 15 points as well for Gracie Schoen-Hoven. Struggled shooting at 5 of 17, but she was 5 of 9 of a charity stripe, 5 rebounds, 1 steal, and 2 blocks as well. And only 2 points for Desta Hugendorn, who struggled shooting at 1 of 5, but she had 7 rebounds, 1 assist, and 2 blocks though. And off the bench, you had 14 points for Aubrey Burkhart, who really sparked a good run off the bench for the Lady Defenders. 4 of 9 shooting, 3 of 6 from deep, 3 of 4 at the line. She had 1 rebound and 2 steals. And then Kaylee Davis got some playing time, did not score, as well as Mackenzie Goodwin and Taylor Drent with 2 points, 1 of 3 shooting with 4 rebounds. And the Defenders shot 35 from the field, 40 from 3, so not too terribly bad, but obviously you could have used a little bit of improvement there. And the free throw line, okay, 13 out of 19 for 68%. And then for the Lady Knights, you had 17 points for Abby McNally. Really no surprise here. 15 rebounds, another double-double. 7 of 17 from the floor, 3 of 4 at the line. She had 1 assist, 1 steal, and 3 blocks, though. And then you had 8 points for her sister Kylie, struggled shooting at 2 of 7, and 12 rebounds, so not quite a double-double. 4 for the charity stripe with 2 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2 blocks. And then you had Taylor doubled that did not score, but she had 2 rebounds. And then 14 points for Kenna Kirby, 5 of 11 shooting, 2 of 3 from deep, as well as from the free throw line. She had 5 rebounds and 1 steal as well to end her career as a Lady Knight. And the big one was Madison Bailey with 23 points, 7 of 20 from the floor, 2 of 6 from deep, 7 of 8 at the line. She had 5 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 steals. And then off the bench, you had 2 points for Kennedy Coleman with 2 rebounds and 2 assists. Zoe Wheeler did not score, and Eva Fisher with 2 points in 8 minutes of action with a rebound and assist plus a steal. And Olivia Faust with 7 points, 2 of 6 shooting, 2 of 4 that was from deep, 1 of 2 at the line. She had 4 rebounds and 2 assists. As she ended her redshirt junior year, she'll be back next year for this Lady Knights team. So again, they are going to be in great hands with number 24 for the Lady Knights, that is for sure, especially from three-point range. And Marion, they didn't shoot the ball really any better. 36 from the field, 35 from 3. Now, they were way better at the free throw line, converting 17 out of 21 for 81%. And then looking at the, let's see if I can pull up, here we go, the actual stats. Now, the difference in this game was the rebounding. Marion out-rebounding 49-35 at 12-10, an assist, which favored Marion. You had 15, they forced Dort into 15 turnovers. Marion scored 16 points off of that. So again, that's pretty much your difference. And Dort forced Marion into 14 turnovers, only scored 11 points off of that. Second chance points, 13-5 in favor of the Lady Knights. Points in the paint, another big difference, 26-16 in favor of Marion, and fast break points 10-6 in favor of Dort, 16-11 in bench points, and the largest lead was 4 points for Dort. That was at halftime. The largest lead for Marion was 13. And that was with 4 minutes and 35 seconds to go in the game. And that was your matchup there. And that concludes recapping all of the games from on the women's side of things for 2025/2026. So looking at your final standings, Marion is finished 35-2. They're riding an 18-game winning streak heading into the 2026/2027 season. So they're carrying a lot of momentum headed into next season. St. Francis ended their year at 30-5. Spring Arbor ended their year at 24-8. Bethel ended their year at 23-12. And what an improvement Bethel made, especially because they were down near the bottom of the standings for so long, but they were able to figure it out this year. And obviously, for them, head coach Scott Paulsgrove, his assistant Austin Hawkins, they definitely have figured things out this year, and I'm excited to see what this Lady Pilot team will do next year. Huntington ended their year 19-12. Again, this is another team I'm super excited about seeing what they'll do next year, especially getting their star three-point shooter Bailey Kellum back, who was out this year due to an ACL injury. She is just going to be an amazing player next year for the Lady Foresters, and they will be looking for 3 straight national tournament appearances under head coach Darby Maggard. And they got to a national tournament back-to-back years this year, and not just that, but they also keep improving. Of course, their first year, in the Crossroads League was, I believe, 22-23. I want to say they finished 8th that year. The following year, they finished in 6th place officially, 15-14, and then last year, actually I can tell you real quick, 22-23, they finished 10-19. That was Darby's first year, 5-13 in conference play. And then 23, and then 21-20. No, it wasn't 21-22. It was 22-23 was their first year. There was Darby's first year, 22-23, when they were 10-19, 5-13 in league play, and then 2 years ago, 23-24, they were 15-14, 9-9 in league play, finished 6th. And then last year, having just an unbelievable year. Last year, finishing 18-13, 10-8 in league play, and then this year finishing 19-12. So they just keep getting better each and every year. And then the Lady Wildcats of Indiana Wesleyan finished their year 19-14. They had I shouldn't say a down year, but definitely a rebuilding year. And I think next year they easily could be right back at the top, competing for the national championship. Taylor ended their year 17-13. Grace ended their year 12-17. Mount Vernon Nazarene 8-20, and Goshen 4-24. So that is a final view of that. Now I'm going to dive more into those teams either tomorrow or Friday, just sharing my thoughts about their seasons, which players definitely stepped up in big-time roles, and super excited about doing that, and it's going to be absolutely amazing. So make sure that you stay tuned for that. And for those of you that have subscribed to my channel all season long, and not just that, but also back from the very beginning, thank you so much for doing so. I really appreciate that, and please keep on subscribing. And I'm 8 subscribers away from hitting 200, which is an amazing milestone. And my goal is to hit that number by September, when Season 3 of Matt Sports Talk will officially begin. So please keep subscribing throughout the summer so you do not miss out on any of this important information as we get into Season 3 coming up here before we know it. And my goal is to hit 500 subscribers, hopefully by the end of next season, by the end of next year's national tournament. So please, let's keep on subscribing and hitting those goals by this time next March. Super excited about all of that. And if you didn't find this video very helpful and or informative, please either like, comment, or subscribe. Any one of those options helps me out greatly. I truly appreciate any feedback that you may provide me. Thanks so much for tuning into this video. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you either tomorrow or Friday with a season recap for both men and the women. God bless.